What's up guys? And ngayon gagawin natin yung yung choices naman na maayos kasi kahapon tinarantado natin yung By the way nga pala sabi ko kahapon 'di ba dati rin naman ako nag-o-office. Alright. Ganun pa rin naman ang trabaho ko ngayon, office work pa rin naman pero home based na. So yung boss ko parehas pa rin regarding sa trabaho. Maayos naman yung boss ko. Kaya okay yun. Hindi ko ginagawa tong ganito, yung ginagawa ko dito tinatarantado ko yung boss ko. Sinusunod ko yun, syempre. Pag hindi mo sinunod yun, tanggal ka sa trabaho. Anyways, tara. Game.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay, diretso na tayo. And regarding dyan sa mga katrabaho nyo, huwag nyo aawayin. Iyaan nyo lang sila. Kasi mahirap din naman yun. New content ba? Sabi ko ayusin ko yung natin, yung choices natin pero parang tempting. Sige.
Oh,
New content.
What does that mean? New content.
Oh my god. Ano to? Wala to kahapon ah. Hindi ko to nakita kahapon. Bago.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Ito yung sa
As you
Ultra
may know, the
Deluxe.
Stanley
Okay.
Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving
yung
critical
computer
and
ko lang
commercial
yan.
success, it was expanded upon in
Scrappy.
2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Iba yung
Oh, well, this
nagsasalita
sounds
ayun.
delightful.
Ayun na
I'm
ulit
very
siya.
excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
Sabi ko ayusin ko na yung choices natin pero ba't may new content? Mukhang
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
ayan na naman siya. Bakit anong ganun nangyari? Bakit ayaw gumana?
Is it broken? What's
Sabi
going
niya
on here? Should we be moving somewhere? Oh,
Ayun,
there we go.
yun.
All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Sabi ko ayusin ko na yung
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Nasaan? Ito na pala. Alright. Jump.
All right, let's see it's...
New content.
The jump
circle.
circle?
36? Should I do it? Should I? No. Let's do this. Dito tayo.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
Diretso na tayo.
Goodness, another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh, wait. There's more.
Aba, meron
Very
pa.
good. Yes.
Alright.
I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Thank you for enjoying the new
That's
content.
it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see,
Ayun na yun.
Stanley, this is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable.
Wala Twitter ngayon.
It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks, just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
Ano kaya mangyari kung nag-jump ako doon ng 38 times? Tingnan nga natin. Subukan natin. Oh, ayun na. Nag-iba. Nag-iba. Saan na to?
Psst,
Uy,
Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
dito tayo. Ayoko dyan.
Oh, you don't want to see the cool surprise I made for you? Well, fine. You're a dork anyway, so who cares?
Ops. Waiting input. Input receive. Oh, tapos parted na naman, yun na naman. Diretso na tayo. Subukan natin yung ano.
When Stanley came to a set of two
ito na
open
yan.
doors,
Ito na yan.
he entered the door on his left.
Mamaya ito, subukan natin yung ano na yan. Diretso na tayo sa left. Ito na naman.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he
get
might find an
fired.
answer there.
Okay. Broom closet. Ito.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Diretso tayo. Taas na tayo, taas. Ito na yung... Aba, maayos ah. Hindi kagaya nung una.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number.
Anong pin number?
2845. But
Sinabi
of
mo na
course,
naman.
Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Ano ba naman yan? Ito yung logo nung ano. Ito yung logo ng game. Tapos mountain.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs.
Sabi ko na nga ba,
Trying to
magsasalita na
input
naman yan.
anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
2845. Kung hindi ko kaya i-enter, antayin ko, ano kayang gagawin niya? May inis na naman siguro to.
2845.
2845, okay. So, ano kayang gagawin niya pag hindi ko pinindot? Magagalit na naman siguro to.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell on with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Alright. Binuksan niya na lang, hindi na niya inano. Siya na nagbukas. Dilim ah. Ano meron dito? Yan. Elevator din. Susubukan natin yung new content mamaya, yung ano na yun. Pati yung vent na yun.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Pag umakit siya ako, nung sasabihin, uy, ano yun nangyari? Ano kaya mangyayari pag umakit ulit ako? Tignan natin.
Whoops. Never mind. Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great question. I just can't wait to find out.
Okay. Baka may nagbago eh. Tignan natin.
Here we are, Stanley. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story in new and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that keen eye for storytelling that you have, an incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative. Wow.
8, 5, 4.
I'm bolted to the edge of my seat.
Baba na ulit tayo.
Incredible. Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this?
Diretso na tayo.
Surely this time Stanley will walk forward into the spooky corridor. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Control facility. Uy, may escape. Ooh, tempting. Alright. Let's go sa escape.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Violent death. Sige nga, subukan nga natin kung totoo.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Parang walang
At this
katapusan to.
point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Wala. Ayun. Ano to? Ano to? Wala. Wala. Oh! Patay. Patay nga. Ay, hindi. Oh. Buhay pa.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life.
No!
Farewell, Stanley.
Patay tayo. Oops. Tumigil.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant,
Iba na yung nagsalita.
Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Hindi naman. The Stanley Parable.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Oh, nakalabas ako.
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in
Iba na yung
advance,
narrator.
death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Ano to? Button saan? Iba-ibang sounds. Oh, ano na? Saan na tayo? Patay. May nagsusolitaire pa. Employee database. Okay. What the wala nang narrator? Wala nang narrator?
At the top of the facility to end this injustice forever. Then he pushed the number 8. Then he pushed the number 8.
Oh, nandito yung narrator. Okay.
He jumped in the river.
Stanley jump in the river. Saan pa tayo? Ito sa taas. Ano kaya meron dito? Ooh. Monitor room, elevator. Ah, meron pa dito. Ano ba meron dito? Wala na nagsasalita ah. Wala na yung narrator ah. Wala. Ulit-ulit lang ah. Wala. Wala na. Wala. Yun na yun. Baka meron pa dito. Baka meron pa pataas. Ah, ito na yung ano. Ito yung room ko ah. The Stanley office, sabi na eh. Wala na, ito na yon.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Up.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No,
Oh.
perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let
Ah! Matay si Stanley. Wala na. Ano na? Ah, yan. I-start na ulit. Okay. Ah,
Stanley,
sa vent
come
tayo.
over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
Oo na, ito na. Pug. Ala, pinatay tayo. Ayun.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret.
Oy, may
Take a
garden.
look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Okay.
You see, Stanley,
2013.
doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013
Original.
when the game originally launched? Back then, video
Good
games had
times.
integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Yung panghihinayang. Wow, leto to ka na. Sige nga, diretso nga tayo. Oh, ano to?
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote,
Ah, ang taas ng
"Where
rating
so
ah.
many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than
Flawless
any form of
victory.
art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever
Ever
created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing.
Daming
It's no
award
games
ah.
at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Ay, may nagbukas. Taas baba, sabihin mo. Wala. Wala naman pala. Kaya pala hindi siya nagsasalita. Diretso tayo dito. Ano to? I hate Mondays. Ako hindi. Tuesdays ang hate ko kasi Monday wala akong pasok niyan eh. Stanley Parable. Okay. Masarado ng kusa
Here's
yung
another
pinto ah.
moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It
Parang
didn't
hindi
need
naman
anything
yun yung
else.
nakasulat.
It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone. To spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of
Excuse me.
beloved video game memories.
Parang hindi naman yun yung nakasulat. Iba naman yung nakasulat. Oh, saan na tayo? Ito. Okay.
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
Nasaan? Ayun po, bukas. Uy, not recommended.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Ayaw niya nung bad review. Oh, ano nasa tayo? Kanan, kaliwa. Parehas lang naman pala. Parehas lang dito tayo. Ito pa isa.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with.
Ito
You
basahin
can't know
mo.
how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Dear,
Ay,
what
pabukas
an
na.
awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks are my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
Ito pa isa.
What's this one got to say? You
Ayaw niya
constantly have to
basahin.
stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I
Nilubog
think we
niya.
can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer,
Ano to?
Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Okay, diretso. Ano na to?
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's
Tingnan
what the
naman natin
players
sa
have been
likod.
asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No, 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 no. The Stanley Parable is a game for the people. And if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll
Ayaw
pretend
niya
that I've just
tumigil.
begun an interminable monologue. And it goes something like this. The story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by
Naiinis siya
becoming
dun
it
sa
is,
ano,
so on
sa
and so
bad
forth,
review.
until inevitably, we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once. So now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, no, until
Skip kita.
245. But the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games.
Sige
Of
lang
course,
siyang
I
salita
happen to
eh.
believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto.
Manifesto.
Look, I'll outline
ng
it
ano.
for you very briefly, and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series of choices made by the person who you are, or were, or will be at the time of having made said choice.
Skip.
That is to well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Oh, I can't wait to see what Cookie 9 will
Cookie
say
9.
about this, and whether they'll edit the rating of their Steam review, or at least change some of the wording, perhaps. To be honest, I don't even know if one can change their review in the first place.
Skip.
Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know.
Skip.
Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer, and my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is
Wala.
gone. It's completely
Oo nga,
gone. I've
napansin ko
looked
nga.
at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times, and there's no
Wala na
door,
nga.
Stanley.
Wala nang
There's
door.
no door. There's just you and the button, and if you keep pressing it, I have no idea what will happen.
Uy, skip.
Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I
Wala,
have someone
pati
to
yung
talk
ilaw,
to
wala
again.
na.
Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single
Wala
person to
nang
speak
ilaw.
to. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking.
Skip. Wala na.
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time, I stopped keeping track of
Skip. Wala na. Tumigil na siya. Okay. Uy. Basta ulit. Skip na ulit. Uy, tumunog. Ano na eh. Nalaglag na yung orasan. Sana wala na. Skip. Skip game na lang
But they
to.
didn't understand the
Yun
game
na.
was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs down
down.
review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he went...
Skip. Wala na siya. Oh, lalayo ko konti. Oh, bumalik. Skip ulit.
The end is never the end is never the end is never the end is never the end
Yan yun
is never
sa...
the end is never the
Yan
end
yun
is
sa
never
ano?
the end is never
Sa
the end
loading
is
ah.
never the
Oh,
end is never the end is never the end.
nakaasar na lang rin siya. Oh. Wala. Oh, yan. Ayan. Ano na ulit yung skip. Pindutin na ulit natin yung skip. Op! Wala, nasira na. Ano nangyari? Unti-unting nasisira. Uy, bumalik na yata. Skip. Wasak na eh. Ano na to? Okay. Bumalik na. Pwede na natin i-skip ulit. Tinubuan na ng halaman. Wala, ayaw pa. Ikot tayo. Antayin natin na bumalik yung skip. Ayaw niya yung skip eh. Skip. Ayan. Sira na yung ano. Wala pa rin yung ayun. Nanggigil siya sa skip eh. Ala. May multo na yata dito. Naging horror na. Ay, skip. Nakatumba na yung skip. Baka meron na dito ano. Ah, pwede na tayong umalis. Ala, nasa na tayo? Nasa disyerto na. Gumagana pa ba yung skip? Wala na, hindi na gumagana yung skip. Patay tayo dyan. Asa na tayo? Dito na mamamatay si Stanley sa disyerto. Sabi ko gagawin na natin yung ano eh, pero nakaka-tempt kasi yung ano eh. Ayun. Ah, bumalik na. Alright, sigurado na ako bukas. Talagang gagawin na natin yung ano natin, yung task natin na susundin siya. So hanggang dito na lang muna guys. Thank you for watching.